Crazy, crazy. JWP first again, killing the game. That's so aggravating. I've got to figure out what that is, what the deal is. Got to figure it out. This is becoming quite frustrating. There we go. Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. I mean, God, that was quick. And I got no errors, 0. Everything was just beautiful and as it should be. So we'll see. We'll see. All right, so we're going to give everybody a second to get back over. And then I'll go through all the obnoxious normal stuff again. Yeah, bro, it happens to be all the time. And here's the thing. Why does it not happen to like anybody else that I've ever seen? I've never been on and granted, I don't like watch stuff that much, but I've never been watching a stream and just had it die to the point where they had to create a new everything. Like, what I need to figure out is how you reconnect. Because it says it's reconnecting. Nothing reconnects. It just sits there. I need somebody who's tech savvy to come help me get this figured out. I will spend some time on that this week. Will do that because this is crazy. All right. Well, we're restarting. So if you're new, if you're watching this later, whatever, there is a link to our Discord. It's in the chat. It's pinned to the top of the live chat. It's also in the description of the video. Discord is where everything is going on. It's where all of our events are too. So whenever there's a live stream going on, you can always see it right there. We do a live Bible study at 6 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, and we do a live podcast where you can call in and talk every Thursday. That is run through the Discord. So either way, you need to be in Discord. But the link is in the description. Link is in the live chat. Blah, blah, blah. Come join Discord. It's very cool. Good time. So tonight we are going through Patrick Bet-David's exclusive interview with Andrew Tate in Romania after Tate's release from jail, after his interview with the BBC where they tried to hang him out to dry and he put them in their place. Well, now Patrick Bet-David had a 4.5 hour long podcast with Tate that was wild. Everything was talked about, literally culture, religion, politics, absolutely everything. So tonight, what we are going to be going over, looking at, watching, is going to be some of the religious stuff that was said. For those who do not know, Andrew Tate's history religiously was he was an atheist, then he was a Christian, now he claims Islam. Why he made the shift from Christianity to Islam will hopefully shock you because it makes no sense whatsoever. So we are going to play this first section here. Let me turn up the volumes. You guys tell me if it's too low or too loud, and I will get it fixed. But we're going to start right here.
And you've seen these messages.
No, we're not, because it's not working.
Some of the people that stood up,
there it is.
They stood up because they feared God. Yeah. Okay. And for you, with your life, it's been interesting watching you go through your evolution of your faith. Yeah. Pre-2022, former atheist, couple of the things you've said in the past, God isn't real because you can't prove it. Yep. Okay, kind of like that was more the Malcolm X argument, right? Yep. Bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people far too often for God to exist. Yep. I'm the center of my universe. That's pre-2020. Yep. Then gradually you start talking about Christianity and, you know, in 2020 you made a video announcing that you were wrong about what you had said previously about God, right? Yep. Now you start saying people are who are atheists are angry, bad energy people, and I don't want to be on that team anymore. And even if God is not real, the world is a better place if people do believe in God. I know God is real because there's so much evil in the world that there has to be an equal and opposite force. The devil can't exist if God does not. And if you look at the world today, it is very obvious that the devil does not exist. And I'll go to the last one.
So that's the first, and I'm going to break this up quite a bit. I've got a bunch of timestamps. Some of them are just a few seconds behind each other. But I got to pause because Andrew Tate has a tendency to ramble into a different subject and then throw these guys off. Luckily, they're very good interviews. They usually bring them back to whatever they were talking about. But that right there, in and of itself, should already be a massive red flag. a lot was said, but none of it is really consistent logically. It's not very logically consistent. I'm going to play a little bit of it again and just try to see the points where you're like, this doesn't make sense. His way of trying to rationalize the concept of religion, the concept of God, is off. It's very much logically inconsistent. So listen again. It's short.
Okay. And for you, with your life, it's been interesting watching you go through your evolution of your faith.
Yeah.
Pre-2022, former atheist, couple of the things you've said in the past, God isn't.
So pay attention to the date too. Pre-2022. That's last year. Last year, he was atheist. So from last year to today, he's gone from atheist to Christian to Muslim. Big shift.
Real because you can't prove it.
Yep.
Okay, kind of like that was more the Malcolm X argument, right?
Yep.
Bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people
Yep.
far too often for God to exist.
Yep.
I'm the center of my universe.
That alone also is something that we talk about quite a bit. The fact that good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people, is that indicative of really anything? What is it? What does that say theologically, if anything? Does that fact that good people go through hard times and bad people go through easy times, does it say anything about God? Does it say anything about religion? And they're not necessarily rhetorical questions. I'm curious because at least from a Christian perspective, it can go either way. There are forms of theology within Christianity that do believe each good thing is done by God, each bad thing is approved at the very least by God, is co-signed by God. That would be your more Calvinistic view, like we talked about last week, the depths of different Christian theological views. That would be a more Calvinistic view. Whereas the more Arminianist side would say, well, some good things that happen are from God. Some good things that happen are just a butterfly effect of the goodness of God, the concept of God, which is morality, which is goodness. And then some good things that happen are just random. They just happen because other things happened that led to this one thing happening. So even within Christian, and this is why Christianity is so odd, is because people have distressed it so much, we've stretched it so much, that now we're very much logically inconsistent. And you're going to find that's his major problem with Christianity, but it gets worse.
That's pre-2020.
Yep.
Then gradually you start talking about Christianity and,
Yep.
you know, in 2020 you made a video announcing that you were wrong about what you had said previously about God, right?
Yep.
Now you start saying people are who are atheists are angry, bad energy people, and I don't want to be on that team anymore. And even if God is not real, the world is a better place if people do believe in God.
Now stopping there. What do you guys think about that? Is the world a better place with religion? How about just that flat right there? Is the world a better place with religion? Even if people don't actually believe. I'm going to put it in a poll. So hit the poll. Is the world a better place with religion, even if people don't actually believe in it? Interesting. No. Really? Explain. Someone explain. And if you want to do voice, I'll open up the voice channel right now. You just have to let me know if you join because I have it muted by default. All right, the voice is open and oh, Katie's already got a hand up.
Hello, can you hear me?
I sure can. You're good.
Okay, I first wanted to address the good things happening to bad people thing. That was one of I wrestled with that too with my doubts and questions about God. When whenever I tried to get like I was one of those combative people who would, what about this? I was always using that kind of maneuver. And a lot of the time, churches kind of like to put out a image of like God's got you. If God is for us, then who can stand against us? And I shall not fear. And God's got me. But and then I like in my like questioning and being combative, I asked the question like, why are there so many stories of good Christian people never getting their miraculous healing or whatever it may be? Why do very good Christian followers who are faithful, why do they like get cancer or get shot or, I just wanted to say that I relate to that and I'm curious to hear if you have any personal experience with that question.
So the question is, why do good things happen to some people and not other people?
Yeah, like, for example, like Christina Grimmie is someone that I idolized. If you remember her, she's the YouTube singer who got shot. Um, and I know that like I couldn't like God, why didn't you like she's a very devout Christian. She's if any like she like why did you let her get shot and killed and why didn't you save her? Um that's just something that I bring up. Like I don't know how to explain this, but like my words fail me tonight.
No, I think
But
I got you. I think I got you. I mean,
you got me good.
yeah, we brushed on, I think either last week or maybe the week before, but what did I get? I think I gave the example of, an 8-year-old girl down the street who has cancer and dies versus say that's what it was. An abusive husband who beats his wife consistently, perpetually, constantly, and nothing bad happens to him. He's a millionaire.
Yep.
Everybody loves him. Uh, there's no easy answer to it. The normal Christian answer is God has a plan, right? Everything is for a plan. The 8-year-old,
Yeah.
she needed to die. She has to go be an angel. It's bullshit. BS.
But yeah,
Total
yeah,
garbage.
boo.
In my opinion, and take it or leave it, everybody, as always. In my opinion, it's the world is full of, call it randomness, but it's not actually random. But the way we perceive it is random. I don't think anything actually happens by random because nothing happens without some cause. Even if the cause was unintentional,
Like the butterfly effect,
it's exactly the butterfly
I believe in the
effect.
butterfly effect.
Well, it's proven. Yeah, there's no way to argue with that. It absolutely happens. If I go out in my car today, I make a left turn at a stoplight where I'm not supposed to, and I hit somebody that say there's a woman in the car, and there's a man in the car, and there's a child in the car. Okay, well, they say the child dies. Those people are traumatic. They have traumatic issues. It ends their marriage. That causes them to not have a kid that they otherwise would have had. That kid would have gone on to do X, Y, and Z, become the next Elon Musk, thus changing the entire trajectory of society and civilization. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's no way to disprove that. Is it random? You could call it random, but it's not. I woke up, I made a choice, I made a mistake, and it caused X, Y, and Z. To me, that's all that it is that stuff is going to happen that is random, but is not actually random, because I personally don't believe God actually engages with society anymore. I don't. And a lot of people disagree with me on that, and that's totally fine. A lot of people still think God is super involved in the world today. I don't see that. And I've said it before that if you go back, listen, think. And I've said this before, so I'll make it short so we can get back to the video. But if you go back to the very beginning of Christian history, and even before that, let's go back to the beginning of the Jewish faith, which most Christians believe is the beginning of the world. Whether you do or not doesn't really matter. But let's go back to like Genesis, and then follow Genesis all the way through the full scripture, New Old Testament, totally complete, through the early years after that, hundreds of years after that. If you actually follow the timeline of literature in and out of Christianity, you see that God is depicted as being involved less and less and less and less. And then today, in my eyes and my perception, and disagree or agree, when I see God involved in the world today, it's through crazy charismatic people. It's through, wild Pentecostal people. It's in weird ways that seem like total garbage. It seems made up. It seems like it's a con. In no way does it seem genuine. If you look back in the literature of when God engaged with the world, one, it was not always nice. There's a lot of not nice stuff that happened. Nowadays, when people say they had contact with God somehow, it's always positive for some reason. It's always miraculous. It's always positive, which just doesn't align with literal history. The other part of it is it didn't seem like a con back then. It seemed authentic, and this is totally subjective, but it seemed authentic. It seemed genuine. It seemed like something was actually happening. It wasn't too over the top. It also wasn't very underwhelming. It was like this kind of nice middle ground that just seemed to fade out over time. And the more you watch that fade, and this is the interesting part, is as God seems to be less directly involved in the world, you see what? You see evil become more engaged, and you see Christianity begin to fall apart by denomination, by war, by heretics. The less God became involved, the more evil came into the earth, and the less stability Christianity as a faith had. And then we have today, where Christianity is completely destroyed. It barely exists. And that's ironically, we're going to talk about that a lot from this Tate thing, but it barely exists. And what does exist is so fragmented. It's so broken. It's so inconsistent. It's so subjective that it's one thing I like that Tate says later. He says it's not really a religion anymore, and it's not. It's not. If you can't follow it, and there's no set doctrine, there's no borders, it's not a religion anymore. It's a bunch of religions. So I guess to super long-windedly answer the question, I don't believe God's super engaged anymore. And then this is the last thing that I'll say, is that I believe, and people hate me or whatever, I believe that the more evil became present in the world, the less God was able to be present in the world. And yes, it conflicts with this idea that God can do anything. But hear me out. God is a concept. God is not a person. God is a concept of morality, that how that engages with us as a species and with, life in general, none of us know. You're lying if you say you know. But I know that God is good.
Agreed.
I know that God is moral, and I know that he is the essence of morality. So if you have the essence of goodness, and you all have a world that is full of evil, more than 50% evil, how could God be involved? Because it's like the opposite ends of magnets. They would repel. It's not that God doesn't want to be involved, in my opinion. It's that we've given in to the negative energies so much that it's overtaken this reality, this plane, this earth, whatever your word you want to use, to the point that God can't be. Because goodness and evil cannot live in the same space. It's not possible. They're antithetical. They're opposite ends of a magnet. So the more we welcome the evil in, the more we're pushing God out. And I think he's out there. I don't think he has the capability of being as involved. And that's a totally fringe idea. It has nothing to do with scripture. It has nothing to do with Christian history. Just to be super, super clear. Absolute fringe theory that is just a personal opinion. Did I at all answer your question?
Thank you for sharing. Again, I wanted to, on the inside, I wanted to be hold up, but then what about being able to do everything? And I kept quiet, and yep, he addressed it right there. I would have to be on that side of, I don't know what would make me angrier if I found out that God can't do anything, or would I be angrier to find out that he can, but he
Yes.
chooses not to?
Right?
That's a big question. What
Yeah.
would you be angrier to find out?
Well, it's free will is my thing. I don't want God doing anything, to be completely honest, because it negates free will. The minute God comes in and puppeteers something good, you're still negating free will. Because if somebody did something bad that would have resulted in a negative consequence for them, and God comes in and rescues them, he took away their free will. Whether it was for, good purposes or not, it doesn't change the fact that he removed their free will in that moment. I have an issue with that.
Didn't he do that? Didn't he do some stuff like that? Like
Back
some
then.
miraculous helping people?
All the time. And that was a question. I think it was Scott or maybe John asked
Why
me a
doesn't
question
he
in
do it
Discord.
anymore?
Well, that's my other theory, is I don't think he can. Totally fringe. I completely understand, believe whatever you guys believe, but that's what I believe. I don't think he's capable because of how much we've allowed evil to overcome this reality. That's my opinion, because I don't think goodness can be in the same place as evil. So I think we as a society, as a reality, our reality, we had the ability to either welcome and keep God, or welcome and keep demonic energy. And I mean, we obviously chose demonic energy. It's everywhere. It's the predominant function of this earth. So I believe, due to the fact that lines up with history, if you watch how less involved God is over thousands of years, to me, that makes perfect sense. We welcomed evil in more and more and more and more. Ironically, at the same time, in the same manner, God became less and less and less involved in the earth. So it stands to reason we got one or the other, but you can't have both. You can't have God in the same room as a demon. It doesn't work. They're opposite energies. They would clash.
What about then what would you say was Jesus was able to come down to this earth, and don't we all have the Holy Spirit with us at all times? I shall be with you through, right?
Yeah. But I mean, would you say that you are equal in moral energy to God? I wouldn't. I'm sure you wouldn't either.
But at one point, God did stand in the same room with, fallen human nature. Not one is worthy. God can't even be in the same room as you. Is that what you were getting at? Because I have heard that, and
through
it's
Jesus.
Kind of, yeah,
So I think that's different though, because he was fully human. So if you're fully human and this is again counter Christian, what you're taught. This is my opinion. Take it or leave it. Don't mean to push it on anybody at all. In fact, I would recommend you don't accept my opinion. But I don't. If Jesus is fully human, he's not perfect. In his godly nature, he's perfect because God is perfect. Because God is not a person; it's a concept. And so, if Jesus is tied to that concept, then within that conceptual context, he's perfect. But if he's also fully human, he's fully imperfect at the same time. And it's the conundrum of the idea of Jesus, is that he's fully man, fully God. And our human conception says fully means fully. You can't have two fullies. You have 100% or you have 50-50. But the concept of Jesus is that you actually had 100 and 100. And would it not make sense that Jesus, if he is God, could kind of defy our human ability to conceptualize the idea of someone being 100% something and 100% something else? I think yes. So I think Jesus is the only exception. I think outside of that, it seems to reason that God either chose, which I don't believe, or was pushed away from creation. Because, again, I believe creation got the ability to be a free agent. Every human, I believe, has the ability, or is, by nature, a free agent. And so humans throughout history either chose God or pushed God away. And if you look over, and we got to move on after this, we're going into totally other stuff.
Yeah, but interesting.
Yeah, it stands to reason. I'm sure we'll talk about it more. What's that?
Yeah. I'm Catholic, and we were taught, from what I remember from my religion class, is how can God be fully, same with the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, 3 persons, one God. We like to use the word mystery a lot. I remember one question on the homework being, one of the things that she wanted us to understand was, what are the 2 definitions of mystery? And I remember that that was important. That was something that you would star because it's something that she really wanted you to remember, but I don't remember the answer. But
oh God.
That's how the Catholics interpret it.
Well, we'll get more into this for sure, because that's a concept that everybody wants to talk about all the time. So I'm sure at some point we should do a dedicated. We'll do a dedicated hour and for sure.
Otherwise, are we gonna go back to homosexuality by any chance? Because I feel like, I don't know, I was really engaged with that one. I feel like I still have more to share.
At some point, for sure. It's on the list.
Absolutely.
There's a part 3, and then we'll go into some of the other kind of fringe, but off of the same thing, because there's obviously a lot to that thing nowadays. But yeah, for sure, eventually we will. Absolutely.
Okay. Does anyone else want to say something?
Ghost, do you want to pop in now, or are you just hanging out waiting?
I was just kind of letting you guys talk. I had a couple ideas, but I don't know, maybe after. I had an idea. You were talking about something, but now I can't remember. So
Oh
maybe
man, I
just,
hate that.
Well, hang on to it. When it comes back up, just jump in.
it was
Or,
something you guys were talking about like 10 minutes ago or something.
about-
Yeah,
Was
I'll
it,
mute myself.
Okay.
God being involved or not, or like
Oh
can he
yeah,
do
God being
anything
involved.
that,
I'm gonna
can
get
he
my pen. I'm
can
just gonna write it down.
Yeah, put it
Okay,
together and then just stop me. I'll play another clip in the meantime. Katie, you good for now?
Sure.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
think
Go ahead.
I basically posted it in the comments, whatever it was.
Okay, I'll go through and find
Which
it.
you or
Joe, are you including other countries other than here in the US? Because I know a lot of people who are talking about God moving in crazy ways in Africa and Asia. Danny, can you give me a little bit more? I'm confused about what you're asking. I'm like 50% with you. If you could just explain a little bit deeper, I'll come back to that for sure. I've gotten to the point where unless a person can make a blind man see, do they really know how this all works? Which hopefully no one is making blind men see. Sounds like a scam to me.
Or ignorant man understand.
God, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't
the
that be
ankle
great?
growing, or the foot, one foot is longer than the other. You seen this?
Yes, I have, dude.
Yeah, the Holy Kool-Aid YouTube channel has
There's
a whole series on faith healing scams.
There's a bunch of actual websites like that are just solely set out to disprove the people who say they like grow someone's legs back and stuff. But we're digressing. So we're gonna go back. Proof of God not getting involved anymore right from the start, and the Lord God, having formed out of the ground all the beasts of the earth and all the fowls of the air, brought them to Adam to see what he could call them. That's an interesting point. Proof of God not getting involved anymore right from the start. But then most of the Old Testament completely destroys that, don't you think? God was super involved, mostly in a pretty
which is my question.
vengeful way. But then New Testament, it's Jesus only. If you notice, God is basically out. And then when Jesus dies, it's this very quick decline of involvement of God, other than what seem to be very con men type scenarios. And I don't mean to discount, because I know people, even in our group, who say like they've experienced God in some way. And I don't discount that. And I don't disbelieve that. And I believe that I have also experienced God. I just believe that his ability to connect with us is diminished in some manner. But we're still off. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to play a little bit more of this where we leave off. So we're going to go to 50:11 right here. All right. Listen.
Here with Muslim quotes from you. Christians don't have a religion anymore because they tolerate everything and stand for nothing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I actually agree with you, the fact that they're tolerating way too much. Islam is the last religion on the planet. God is something to be feared, respected, and to prove yourself to, which means you got to earn his right.
Yeah.
It's hey, I want to earn your right and your respect, right? How did you go, if you don't mind talking about your own evolution? Because us as men, if you knew me at 25 years old, you probably would have liked to party with me. I was a selfish guy. I was a guy you would have thought I was, right? And we go through this phase of where the selfishness kind of comes down a little bit. You still need to be selfish because you need to be driven, but to the point where you're like, listen, man, I got to really do something. And then somehow, some way, God enters. What's been your evolution of your faith, and where are you at today?
Yeah, I think Newton's, I think it's third law, equal and opposite force, what you just said there is absolutely true. There has to be an equal and opposite force to all the evil in the world. And that the equal and opposite force to all that evil has to be God. And I've talked about this at length even with atheists, and I try and say that regardless of whether you're an atheist or not, you're thinking of God as a man in the sky, but you need to think of God as a concept as a whole. And once you do that, it's impossible to accept that he doesn't exist, right? I said to the atheists, I said, let's say there was two islands. You're shipwrecked, right? And there's two islands. Both of them are full of savages. On one island, you and your friend are shipwrecked. On one island, your friend goes and he crashes and they kill him and they eat him. And you go to another island and they want to kill you and eat you, but they don't because it's against their religion. Mm-hmm. Did God save your life? Who cares? Who doesn't even know the name of their God? But their God said, don't kill shipwrecked survivors. And now you're alive. So their God saved your life. The concept of God in and of itself saved your life. You owe.
So what do you guys think about that? Mainly the end. The idea, and I apologize if my voice is messed up. I've been deathly sick. I almost did not do this tonight, but we're going to truck through. What do you guys think of that concept? The idea, I like the illustration there. The idea that if you get shipwrecked and the people on that island choose to not kill you and eat you because their God, what they believe in of God, says to not kill and eat shipwrecked people. Did God save you? Did God save you? That's the question. And I want actual answers because I'm curious. Did God save you?
I think so.
Why?
Is Thomas Edison powering the light bulbs in your room right now?
Indirectly is what I would say.
That's yeah. The ideology is an extension of God.
So what about,
That's what I believe.
what about if, say he did not create, say we took him out right before that ever got released. Would somebody else probably come up with that idea at some point?
Yeah, Nikola Tesla. But
It's-
yes, I get your point.
It's likely, right? So I don't disagree. I'm just kind of, going back
Yeah.
and forth. But I don't know what I think about it. Because at the same time, did those people believe in, what God did they believe in? Does that matter? Does it even matter?
Well, I mean, if I could pop in, I think when we think of God saving someone, we think of him doing it in a very direct way, right?
Sure.
I mean, we read the book of Immaculée, Left to Tell, the Rwandan genocide, where they hid in a teeny tiny little bathroom and they put a wardrobe in front of that bathroom door, but the doorway was taller than that, so you could so tell that there's a door behind that. But the survivors in the book, Immaculée, like she believes that God made the soldiers blind when they were looking for them because it was very light. It was very obvious. It wasn't a good disguise.
Yeah.
We think of God interacting with us that way when we say God saved us. But it also brings up the point of the idea of God, like religion, you know what I mean? It makes you think.
To me, it's the concept. And that's my whole thing regardless. So perhaps I'm biased, but I think we've talked about it before. I believe an atheist can do good moral things. I don't believe morality makes any sense from an atheist's point of view. It doesn't. I've debated atheists for years about this. I've never heard a good answer. There's no way to justify objective morality as an atheist. Excuse me, because you have no objective thing to source from. It's just you decide it's wrong just cuz. That doesn't make any sense. You have to have some objective authority for morality to actually make sense. So I think it's a similar thing in that an atheist can do good works, good moral things. They just don't know where it comes from. They can't fully express it in a logical manner or in an eloquent
Have
manner.
you heard? I would suppose they would come from. I like seeing good things happen in the world. Therefore, I like to create an act of kindness because it makes me feel. I have observed how it makes me feel and other people feel.
Sure.
I've seen the good that it does, so that's why it's not because of God, it's because, like, have you heard that?
Yeah, but why is that good? There's plenty of people who like physical violence during sexual intimacy. Would be my argument. Where there's people who that would absolutely traumatize them. So what is right? What is good?
What is good?
Just saying something makes me feel good or makes someone else feel good is totally subjective, because what makes you feel good and someone else feel good, go talk to the psychopath down the street. They're going to say that doesn't make them feel good. Hurting people makes them feel good. So for them, is morality hurting people? Is that positive? Is that goodness? So I get what you're saying, and I've had this debate with hundreds of people. It never works. It never works. It always comes down to you're being subjective. That's your opinion. That it's fine, and you can hold that opinion, and I totally respect it for your whole life. I totally respect it. But there's no way to say this should be objective for everybody unless it comes from a central authority, regardless of the God. Don't care. Allah, Yahweh, the Hindu God, it doesn't matter. But you have to have some objective moral standing, some objective figure one thing that it comes from. Otherwise, it's just an opinion. It's just subjective. You have to take the subjective concept to an objective concept somehow. And I think there's a lot of ways to do it that make cohesive arguments. I don't believe them, but they make cohesive arguments. The atheists, there's no objective authority at all in any way. There's no way to make morality make sense. It's subjective. There are cultures that do atrocious things, and it's perfectly fine within their culture. We would call it immoral. Why? Because our culture disagrees? Well, our culture is kind of changing towards those ways. So no, we say it's immoral because we believe in a God who set very, very clear as day standards for morality. If we didn't have that, then morality would be created by culture, which is what we're seeing. Even in the US, we're seeing it absolutely more than ever. So I just don't think there's any way. But I think the idea, going back to the video again, because we're almost an hour in, we've watched like 1 out of 10 clips. The concept of God saves people, but I don't believe that's always logically consistent, because the concept of a false God could save people. If a group of people at the shipwrecked island believed in Satan as their God, and Satan told them not to eat shipwrecked people, then Satan technically saved them. It's the concept of some kind of authority that saves people. To say it's the Christian God, or to say it's Satan, or to say it's the Hindu God or Allah.
Does it have to be authority?
Yeah.
Or like...
No, it has to be authority. It has to be authority, because you're giving a command. You're giving a command. Morality is a command.
Or like leading by... Well, I mean, yeah. But you still... What about... If I haven't gotten the command from... I mean, like, moral atheists exist, right? You agree, right? But that doesn't mean that they're doing it because they're afraid of an authority, or like we're... Like, when you say authority, do you mean like... Like, I picture like, Old Testament God, lay down the law,
I'm the authority in my house. My daughter, she does what I say. I am more experienced. I have higher intelligence. I want what's best for her in every manner of the word. I am the authority in this house. Whatever I say here with my daughter goes. She is to follow my authority because I have good intentions. I love her. I want her to succeed in life. I want her to have discipline. I want her to be intelligent. I want what's best for her. It's good authority. It's not negative authority. You can have dictator authority. Yeah, no, within this context.
Some of us jump towards that.
Yeah, you gotta preconceived notions gone. Preconceived notions gone.
Yeah.
Let them flow. Yeah. No, authority is just somebody who is deciding what the rules are within this context. So it's Yahweh, it's God. He decided what is right and wrong and made it very clear.
And
how do
you know? Like your conscience. We were taught that you have a conscience. No, it's
the Holy Spirit.
Oh yeah, we were taught that you have a conscience. That was a vocab word, but I guess nowadays I would change that around to the Holy Spirit, what you just said there. But then again, there's always that wrestling inside of like temptation and stuff. You don't always want what... Oh, you like my ringtone? Okay. It's in my pocket. Okay, I can't pick that up right now. Yes, I am Catholic. The Lord be with you. We were taught not exactly... Okay. If I were to explain it now, how do we... I mean, I guess God puts a like a seed of, your conscience, why do what is... And we could talk about morality. That could and should be another discussion for another day, because I do want to try and stay on topic. But can someone just like put that on a sticky note or something?
I got it already. It's on later. It's on there. But I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. So I'll say this, and then we got to watch another video. But to me, I view the conscience as kind of like it's like a C+ suite. And if you don't know what that is, it's a program where you can type code. You can create other programs. It's a blank slate in a programming program. And I believe, depending on your surroundings, depending on your background, I think lines of code enter that suite, both the negative and positive. And then I think you can intentionally bring code into the suite, write your own code into the suite. And I view kind of the Holy Spirit as
That's
that,
a little
or
too.
demonic energy is that. I get it, yeah, but you get it. It's a blank notepad. It's a blank notepad. And you can write
Okay,
positive
yeah,
things
I
in it,
understand
and you
that.
can write negative things in it. And positive people can come right on it, and negative people can come right on it. And I'm talking spiritual energy. So I think people who have more negative spiritual energy written towards them, they tend to have conscience from a negative sense. There are plenty of people who say their conscience told them to do something that is absolutely immoral. So you have to make sense of that. And then I'd say, most normal people, specifically most Christian people or religious people in general, would say that their conscience tends to lead them towards what is right. Well, that would be like the Holy Spirit. But I think there are people who completely
Maybe
push out
I would come
anything
back.
good.
I would come back and say that then it must not have been your conscience who told you that.
Agreed. Yeah, that's my point. Yeah, 100%.
That would be my comeback.
100%. I
Yeah.
don't think the conscience actually exists, is what I'm saying. I think it's a culmination of life experiences and negative or positive energy.
Agreed. Especially how you were raised.
Yeah,
Your parents
absolutely.
teach you right from wrong.
Absolutely.
That if you take developmental psychology of even at a 101 level, they'll teach you and you'll understand that most of it comes from, your parents teaching you right from wrong,
Yeah.
discipline and
Yeah.
your motivations for doing the good thing at very young age. You're scared of getting punished, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We could talk about that.
No, exactly. And we'll definitely come back to that when we hit morality, because it is on the list, and that's one people have been asking for. So we'll get there. All right. We got to go into another video. So let's see, 1:52:33. All right, this is about a minute
Respect for
15.
Islam, because I understand that to a degree, to have a religion at all, you have to have an intolerance to a degree. Because without an intolerance, you don't have rules, you don't have laws, you don't have any, like you said, you have to earn God's respect. If you're a religion which is tolerant of everything, then you don't have to earn God's respect. You can be a bad person and do bad things. God loves me, so it's fine. Well, no, it's not, because that's not the point of the religion. So then you extrapolate that out, and I was sitting and thinking, well, what's the primary function of a religion? And the primary function of a religion, I don't believe, is the religion exists so I can live forever. I mean, that's a nice thought. But I think on a macro level, the primary objective of a religion is to restore and contain some degree of traditional value within the society. How do you...
Okay, so pausing there. And anybody who wants to come in, give me like 5 minutes, because there's 3 clips here that we're going to watch one after another. That right there, red flag. The purpose of religion is not for society. It's not for societies to come back together and function properly. It's a side effect of religion, in my opinion. It's a side effect of religion. Religion causes unity. Religion has specific doctrine and ideals around a concept, which is the nuclear family, which historically has proven to be the most stable family outcome for societies. But that's not the reason for religion. Is not for society's benefit necessarily. The reason for religion depends on your religion. The reason for a Hindu to believe what they believe is one thing. The reasons Christians believe what they believe is not for society to function. That's just what happens if religion is present. So on one hand, yes, all throughout human history, the most religiously unified societies have been the most successful societies. And when those religious ideals begin to decay, the society begins to decay. There's no way to argue that. It's been proven over and over again. However, that is not the reason for religion. That's like saying that's the reason for God. That's such a small-minded way of thinking, to believe that God's purpose, the God as a concept existing, is for our benefit, and not even just us, but just so society like functions right. That's so small to me. Totally my opinion, as everything else I say is all my opinion. So I don't care if you disagree. You believe what you want to believe. That seems so small-minded to me. You're so small-minded, if you, in my opinion, with love. If you believe that the purpose of God as an entity is so that our stupid little human societies function at a high capacity. No, it's a benefit of that. It's a benefit of society being in touch with God, in my opinion. It's a benefit of that. It's not the reason for that. Mikhail, what are you lost on? I think the world we live in has changed and the context has shifted. Examples, there weren't cars back in biblical times, but the law that you shouldn't drink and drive is based on not murdering. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Nat, is if you take, and we talked about this when we did a stream on morality months ago. We'll come back to it, but we talked briefly about the fact that if you took the 10 commandments in and of themselves and set those as law, every other negative thing, virtually every bad thing, every immoral thing is accounted for within the 10 commandments. Everything. It's a beautiful sweep of morality that regardless if you disagree with some of it, it doesn't really matter. It covers everything. So yeah, something like drunk driving, it boils down to you killed somebody. And that goes for virtually every scenario that you could possibly think of. It boils down to, well, you broke the 10 commandments. People were so bad at letting their morality lead them, God had to write rules on rocks and number them. Dude, Dumb Cat always has great one-liners. Of course they are, Mikkel. It's not a moral if it's subjective to context. Yeah, that's not a moral. That's an opinion. The concept of traveling and soberness, drunkenness existed, though. Nothing new under the sun. Yeah, fun fact. Amish people actually have a very high rate of DUI. And it's not in a car. I'll just say that. All right, going back in. There's more to this one.
Let me change the way I worded that. How do you judge the success of a religion? I don't think you can judge it by the number of people who join it, because there's lots of people who are Catholic who don't act Catholic. They don't
Agreed.
act in any way particularly Christian. Anyone can say they're something. You can walk into a strip club and everyone says they're Christian. It doesn't mean anything, right? So how do you judge the success of a religion? Well, I like to think the best way to judge the success of a religion is how successful is it at fighting evil? How successful is it at preserving the morality of a population in X parameter, in X geographical area?
Okay, this is a tricky one. Because on one hand, I totally agree. And on the other hand, I still think it's too simple. Listen to that again, because this one's important.
You can walk into a strip club and everyone says they're Christian. It doesn't mean anything, right? So how do you judge the success of a religion? Well, I like to think the best way to judge the success of a religion is how successful is it at fighting evil?
So on the same note, you could have a group of atheists who do not believe in God whatsoever, but go out and do social justice and not SJW stuff. I mean, literal social justice. They go out and they do good. They throw millions, billions of dollars at fighting something like sex trafficking or battered wives, all sorts of good causes. They could go out and do that. So is their religion of not having a religion the truth? Does the outcome make a religion true or false? I would argue no. It doesn't. Inherently, no. I believe whatever the true religion is, within our context here, we all predominantly believe in Christianity. So if all of Christians adhere to Christianity, which he made a good point saying that they absolutely don't, if they did, they would be doing what Christianity teaches. And the entire world would, it would look totally different in every possible way. It would look totally different. And it would be the best at fighting evil. So on one hand, I agree. But again, I think his thinking is too small. It's very direct, which makes it inaccurate. But he's saying truth. Ghost, you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say outcomes are connected to proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you understand something and are proficient in it, the outcome will be different. So the subject matter or the base material is important, but it depends on how well people understand it and if they're proficient in carrying it out. So the outcomes will be vastly different with the same subject matter, and we see that.
Yeah. But
I was just going to say that.
At the same time, though, man, if let's say Islam really did fight more evil than Christian, which honestly in 2023 it probably does, but if they fought more evil, did more good total over the entire earth, the whole flat earth, would that make Allah the true God? Because that's his point. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Agreed. I think that's why, like, I totally agree with what you're saying. That's to me, that's 100% accurate. His thinking, whereas like I agree that that's the way it should be. That like if you believe in a religious doctrine of some kind that is moral, and I believe it or not, a lot of Islam and and not everything, but a lot of it is very much identical. They have their own stuff that's very much not identical, but a lot of it is. So if we actually did what Christians should do, one, we'd definitely be the highest moral standing religion in the world. We're absolutely not at this point, but that still wouldn't prove our God to be real. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make our God real. It just means that we're able to kind of, like you said, we're able to perform at the highest rate. But that doesn't prove anything other than make you the fighter of the evil.
I think outcomes, when people place priority on outcomes, that's a very like socialist, communist type of thing.
Yeah,
in my opinion, you know.
I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, we're not going to go there. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking though. Yeah. It's not the way it should be. It should be based on performance. And religion should be what he's doing is he's judging religion based on the performance of the people who believe in the religion. He's not judging the religion based on of historical facts or corroboration of stories or personal experience with God. His entire view of religions are who is adhering to their book the best, which is perhaps a good indication of what the true religion is, but in no way does it prove what the true religion is. It's just a way of potentially judging. His whole thing is, I see Christians all over doing all sorts of bad stuff. Therefore, Yahweh, the Christian God, it must not be real. I see Muslims adhering to the Quran, sticking to it, holding their values. Therefore, Allah is the true God. It makes no sense at all. It's very small-minded. It's a very small-minded way of thinking. You wouldn't do that in any other areas of your life. And I love what Patrick Bet-David says is he says it's a vertical relationship. It's not a horizontal relationship. You're not judging God based on the people around you. You're judging God based on your connection and understanding of God. Andrew Tate totally judges religions based on a horizontal. He's judging the believers and is totally ignoring the God. It's inconsequential to him.
Right. I think what one of the major differences between Islam and Christianity is the punishment system.
Yes, absolutely.
So whoever has the most coercion and the most punishment, of course, they're going to have the most predictable outcomes, more uniformitarianism.
Yeah.
Or uniformity, I should say. Well, and you know, if they'll cut your head off or cut your hand off for doing something, then I mean, of course, you're going to be more obedient.
Yeah, and he gets to that. He talks about the connection with fear and respect. So we'll get there. I
don't have anything else to say. You can get to it.
All right, we'll play another.
No, we don't care. No, that's not what the book says. No, I was raised Christian, and Muslims as a whole, we have no problems with Christians. None at all. I don't want anyone to think I'm anti-Christian, like I dislike Christians. We don't have a problem with Christians. We believe in a lot of the same things. We believe in Jesus. We put more respect on the name of Jesus than most Christians do. I just don't like the idea of people saying they're a Christian and saying, but because I'm a Christian, I can do whatever I want and throw all the rules away and none of it matters. Because once you have that level of tolerance, you no longer have a religion. Islam seems to be the last religion left with parameters. If you don't have parameters, you don't have a religion at all. So the closer I found myself to God, the closer I found myself to Islam. That's just.
But that's not what he did. The more he learned to hate Christians, arguably he has a very similar view of Christians as I do. But the more he decided that I don't like Christians are hypocrites, Christians don't follow the book, Christians don't have a religion anymore, therefore God is not real. Muslims hold to their book, super strict, follow the guidelines, follow the doctrine, haven't split into a million different versions. Granted, there are absolutely a dozen different kinds of Muslim, but still nowhere near Christianity. And even the different sects of Islam, they hold to a lot of the same values and principles. But therefore, Islam must be true. It's a totally illogical way to try to conceptualize religion and try to understand religion. We don't have a problem with Christians. By the way, pay the What is that? Jizya? Is this a culture thing that I'm like not up to speed on?
It's the not Muslim tax.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, I love how much he'll go into it actually. But he just doesn't understand the religion at all. Islam. He does not understand it. He's in way over his head, which is fine. But God, he probably pissed a lot of Muslims off with this. I'll say that much. 56, 50.
Like, I dislike Christians. We don't have a problem with Christians. We believe in a lot of the same things. We believe in Jesus. We put more respect on the name of Jesus than most Christians do. I just don't like the idea of people saying they're a Christian and saying, but because I'm a Christian, I can do whatever I want and throw all the rules away and none of it matters. Because once you have that level of tolerance, you no longer have a religion.
Hang on, it's
Islam
at the
seems
end
to
of
be
this.
the last religion left with parameters. If you don't have parameters, you don't have a religion at all. So the closer I found myself to God, the closer I found myself to Islam. That's just how it ended.
And Andrew, speaking of fear,
There you go,
one
listen.
could argue that Islam these days, certainly in the last 20 years with the war on terror, they've also been the most vilified,
Absolutely.
right? So, you know, everything that we've seen happen with extremism and everything that's going on all over the world, how are you grappling with that? You've been a Christian for years now, Islam, everything.
And you know what? That's such an interesting question, because when I was younger, especially when I was an atheist, I would sit and think, people are really doing terror attacks and doing all this crazy stuff because, you know, they're upset over a cartoon. That's so stupid. And nobody should kill nobody should kill anybody.
Charlie Hebdo, everything.
Yeah, nobody should kill anybody. Nobody should kill anybody. I'll make that very clear. But also part of me is now saying, why would you want to insult the prophet for billions of people? Why would you want to do that? I don't even want to make the argument against free speech. I'm not even saying you couldn't be allowed to. This is a sensitive subject. I'm just saying, what kind of person wakes up and thinks, I want to do that? I don't know. I just don't think that's a healthy mindset. Like when I see these Satanists, and they're, especially in America, and they're doing, let's keep it on Christianity, these Satanists, and they're dressing up Jesus as gay and all this stuff, like, that's not done in any kind of good faith. There's no good reason to do that. That's done with genuinely malicious intention. And what kind of people want to do that? And then the answer by extension is, I thought America was a Christian country. So how can you have a Christian country where the prophets of the religion are mocked to the highest possible levels within the confines of the country and it's promoted? Is that a Christian country? Doesn't seem like a Christian country to me. I don't think the same thing would happen with Islam in Saudi Arabia. I can't imagine that happening. So how can you say we're a Christian country, but everyone's mocking our God on the streets? Ha ha ha. It's on Netflix. Ha ha ha. That's not a Christian country to me. So if you're not a Christian country, then where's the religion? The religion's supposed to enforce certain boundaries. You're supposed to at least show it respect, you know? And it's also kind of interesting because...
Okay, so again, it's tough. Because on one hand, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. The U.S. is not a Christian country anymore. You could say it. If you include all of Christianity. The issue is none of Christianity agrees with each other. So I guess first question is Christian one religion? At this point, I honestly would argue no, it's not. 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have said yes. Because for the most part, the differentiations between the denominations was primarily non-essential. It was primarily about non-essential doctrine, non-essential ideas, non-essential ideologies, interpretations. They were things that didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Over the past 5 years, specifically the past 3 years, it's become much worse. Now it's very different. Now, the Christians are completely giving into culture. Whereas Jesus was counterculture. Jesus was rise against the machine. Jesus was a rebel. Jesus was F the system, ushering in actual spirituality, actual religion, actual humanity. That's not what Christians do anymore. Christians adhere, Christians bend the knee, Christians adopt, and Christians fit in. Christians are a part of the system. They are a cog in the machine. They are no longer counterculture. They are no longer rebels. The government is not concerned about Christians. Let's be
Can I
honest.
add something, Joe?
Yeah, go ahead.
So atheists like to use something called the no true Scotsman fallacy. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
You know what that is?
Yes.
All right. So I don't think that's a fallacy at all. I think it's a question of ontology. What a thing is kind of based on what a thing does. So is someone a Christian? Like, just because they say they're a Christian doesn't mean they're a Christian. Because he says you will know them by their fruits, aka actions. So there is no true Scotsman. You're a Christian if you do certain things and believe certain things. You're doing it because you believe it, number one. So if someone is doing a lot of things that aren't Christian and it's to the detriment of society or their loved ones or whatever, then can they call themselves a Christian? I don't think so. Maybe that's an unpopular belief, but I think a Christian can be identified by their fruits, not by their words. And I'd be curious to see what everyone thinks about that. Hello? Are we here?
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What
So,
happened?
So what I was saying while I was muted is that I agree with you, but I disagree, because I think anyone can call themselves Christians because that's what they do. That's what we see. They run churches. They run multi-million-dollar industries with church planting. They do call themselves Christian. That's the issue, though. Are they Christian is the question. And I agree with you there in that no, they're not. But the problem, I think the crux of the issue is that they do call themselves Christian. And then that hooks in the new people into, like, this is Christianity. This is what Christians do. They all go in a building that's a coliseum and go through the worship song and give money when they're at their absolute highest emotional state. That's Christianity. When in reality, it had nothing to do with what Christianity was in the beginning. That's what the, how do I say this? That's commercialized Christianity at best. At worst, it's demonic Christianity, because it's done nothing but damage. It's done nothing but damage and make people feel good, which in my opinion is damage. People need to struggle. What was all of the Bible? People effing struggling constantly. Nobody really had an easy life in the Bible. Christians have this idea that, like, being a Christian is this whimsical thing where we go to church and we sing and dance and go to Bible study and drink coffee and like that. No, that's you being in a bubble of hypocrisy. But I think the issue is that these people call themselves Christians, and it's a cultural movement of a bunch of idiots, a bunch of sheep who are just following whatever is said. And 9 times out of 10, it's coming from somebody's mouth who doesn't understand the Bible, who doesn't know, like, rudimentary Greek or Hebrew. And not that you need to know that to be able to, like, be a pastor at all, but if you're going to lead 100,000 people, you should.
You should probably kind of know it, though.
You should.
Yeah.
Like, if that's your vocation, because here's the other thing too, is like people get upset because, and I'm totally off track, but people get upset because the Bible, and it does say that women are not to be preachers and teachers. Regardless of interpretation, we've talked about it. I agree with it to a point and totally disagree with it to a point, but regardless, let's go with the conventional belief. Women are not to be preachers and teachers. At the same time, the part that men like to ignore is the part where it says most men won't be either. It's a very small select group of people, specifically men, is the conventional belief, who are to be preachers and teachers. It's not any dude. I think the problem is that any dude is a pastor nowadays. All you do is not go to seminary and you become a megachurch pastor. I don't know any, honestly, I've never met one megachurch pastor who actually went to seminary. They got some certificate or did nothing at all and were just raised up out of the church, which, again, I suppose it could work. But if I would feel, I still feel, I was just 2 months ago talking about going back for my PhD again, because I feel like I'm not qualified enough to even be talking to 10 people on YouTube. I feel like I'm doing a disservice by not doing that. I couldn't imagine still being in a megachurch and not having been to seminary first, because I'd feel like I was failing everybody in the audience. You should know whatever your trade is, but if specifically you're going to be a freaking pastor, where like there's very specific guidelines if you actually read the Bible and understand it and believe it. That one, it's a very small group of people who are actually called to that. I think the problem that we have today is like it's people who want celebrity. They're pastors. It's people who are good at telling stories. It's the exact freaking people that 2 Corinthians talks about. Eloquent speakers, philosophical minds, they can capture an audience, but they're not actually pastors. You don't need to be able to do those things to be a pastor. You need to be able to lead people and teach people, get people to understand things, get people to think about things. I think it's broken to totally take your stuff way out of left field. I apologize, but I think that's the problem.
I think I could maybe speak for everyone in the group. I don't think we care if you have your doctorate, man.
No, but it's not that. It's not the title. It's not the title. It's not the degree. It's just continuing to go through rigorous testing of my understanding of things. Even stuff I don't believe, just because I take it like very serious, which is why I try to be super clear when things are just my opinion. And I go the roundabout ways that I go. It's not at all in that way. I didn't mean it like that. I mean that like in some way, I feel like I just always feel like I'm not doing enough, whether it's with this or anything else in my life. It's like a perpetual state that I live in. But specifically this, where like people are sitting and listening to me talk, or listening to you talk, or listening to anybody talk. If you're going to be an influence of any kind, even for 10 people, I just feel like it should never stop. And my issue with the mainstream Christian cycle of things was that it seemed like they never even started. A lot of the megachurch pastors, a lot of the celebrity pastors, it seems like they never even wanted to start, which to me was just a massive red flag. I felt completely underwhelmingly educated when I was way overeducated comparatively. But I think in reality, I'm very undereducated. I did have a bunch of people that I knew who like blew me out of the water. I would never be able to keep up with them because they never quit. They were in their 50s and they're still in school. They just keep going and getting degrees and being certified in this and going through mentorships with this. My point is like, if you're going to be a public speaker, if you're going to be a pastor per the Bible, I think it's a very small group of men or women, because I genuinely don't really care. I think there's a lot of women who could lead. I think biblically it's sticky, but that's not what we're talking about. I just think it's tough. I think it's very, very tough. And I think that's the world we live in, is a world where it's a bunch of celebrities indoctrinating people into, go back to what you initially started with this, indoctrinating people into thinking they're Christians. When if you can't express what you believe, you're not a Christian. You're brainwashed. To say it bluntly,
I agree with that.
You're brainwashed. It's the same politically. Take it to anything. If you believe something and you can't adequately express what you believe, you don't believe it. You're brainwashed.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And going back to kind of like what is a Christian, I know we live in a time where people hate labels, but labels are required and necessary to know anything ontologically what a thing is.
Yeah.
You have to have some type of barrier or boundary to define it and separate it from something else that it's not. So if Satan is the author or authority, same etymology, of confusion, then a really awesome way to confuse people would be to mislabel things so that they can't identify it. And that's what's happening.
Yes. In every way, yes.
Yeah, in every way, practically. I mean, you go to the grocery store and look at the ingredients. It'll say one thing, but it's like, really, is it that or is it something else? They change the name. They do all kinds of tricks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's in marketing, it's in labeling, it's in societal constructs, it's in social class groups, it's everything. I mean, take recession, for instance. A year ago, we literally changed the definition of the word recession so that we didn't classify as being in a recession. That's wild. Mm-hmm. That's wild. And y'all fact check me, because it's absolutely true. It is a fact.
No, it's true.
It's absolutely true. We hit a recession per metrics that if anybody who actually went through college in finance, your textbook would put it under these parameters. We were under those parameters last year, around this time last year. The Biden administration literally changed the definition of the word so that we didn't classify as that. So yes, just a very dramatic example. But yeah, we have a society where people don't know who they are. We're changing the names of chemicals. We're changing the names of everything. It's mass confusion. And then we can go into conspiracy land, but it's mass confusion. When you change the labels of things, labels are super important. I totally agree. They're vital to have a functioning society. You have to have labels. Our problem actually becomes how we conceptualize the labels, the stigmas attached to labels. The labels aren't the problem. It's the behavior usually of the people wearing the label that brings on some kind of problem. And within this context, that's Christians. Christians do crappy things. Therefore, people hate Christians. Therefore, Andrew Tate believes that the God of Christianity does not exist. One, that's his bad. But beyond that, it's our bad as Christians that we can't act like Christians. It's a cyclical circle of BS and confusion. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, if you do some serious business in your bathroom and you have to call a plumber, and then like a guy with a fireman uniform shows up, you're not going to be cool with that.
No.
But like people are cool with that in other areas of society. It's insane to me.
That's a good example. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely. And it's fueled on emotion and social pressure. If there's enough emotional fuel and enough social pressure, they are literally getting people to believe red is blue, black is white, sky is under your feet, and the ground is in the air. It's the wildest thing I've ever seen, what we're experiencing right now. The fabric of reality is being shifted with labels and descriptions and confusion, in my opinion.
And Jesus called all of it.
All of it.
When I read that, I don't know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I was like, how is that even going to be possible? But like, here we are.
Just like this. That's how it's possible. Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I don't want to take up any more time though. If you want to play some more clips.
No, you're good. Yeah, I think we'll probably have to come back to this anyways. But yeah, let's roll another one. Yeah, it's about 2 minutes.
In Christian countries, there's more respect for Islam than there is for Christianity. In a Christian country, name one. They still don't do it with the Islamic Prophet.
Why do you think that is?
It's too much smoke. It's just not worth the heat. Because people believe. And I'm not advocating for violence on any level. I'm saying that even these degenerates who are trying.
This goes to what you were talking about earlier, where the fear, the tie between fear and respect. If you have enough people that fear this ideology, like no crap, you're going to have people adhere to it.
Trying to destroy people's belief in God, like we've discussed earlier, because they don't want you to have any baseline morality. If you believe in God, there are commandments, yes and no. That baseline morality prevents you being an absolute slave. So they're trying to destroy it. But even those degenerates who are trying to mock and disgrace God, understand there's a point where it just backfires and, ooh, this is smoke. And they don't want the smoke. And shouldn't God be feared? I'm scared of God. It's the only thing I fear. I fear God. They can put me in jail. I know I'm telling the truth. God's on my side. I fear God. So God should be feared. So once again, does anybody fear the Christian God? I haven't seen anybody scared of him in a long time. And it's kind of crazy because it's very interesting. The mass migration and all these things are leftist policies, but then also Islam is the most right-wing religion on earth. It's kind of very interesting. I grew up in England, and I grew up in Luton, which is a town which is mainly Muslims. It's a huge Islamic community. And there was a bunch of English people who were complaining about there's too much immigration, we're losing our culture, and I understood their point absolutely. But these are the same people complaining about all the left-wing LGBT in schools and all these issues. And I was like, the only allies you have against this are the Muslims. They're the only allies you have in any of this. The Christians don't protest against any of this stuff. The Christians don't. There's very few Christians who will get up off their ass and complain. In fact, I saw on Twitter yesterday, one of the churches was lit up in rainbow. I have nothing against gay people. I don't care. And that's actually another point I want to make into about this thing. I think most people don't care, and I think that bothers them. Have you ever had an argument with a girl, and she's like stropping around the house, she's huffing and puffing, and you just don't give a shit? So she has to keep upping the ante till you eventually go, what's the problem? Because she tried the low-level stuff, and you didn't care. I kind of feel like this has a remnants of that. I'm gay, cool. I want to get married. Fine. I want to wave my dick in your kid's face. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I feel like they tried to annoy us, and we're like, we don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. Be a person. We don't
What a
care.
point.
And now they're like, okay, well, we have to get to a limit where they have to react.
Yeah.
We want attention now. We want them to care about
What's
this.
the right move on that?
Well, that's the point. You know, it's difficult because there comes a point where you simply have to address it, and
So
now you
is-
have to oppose it. And this is sorry to interrupt you, but this is why they're so careful and so clever with what they do. They package it all together. LGBTQ. I would argue. I don't know what Q is. Firstly, sorry, I don't know what Q is.
Questioning.
Q. All right. I would argue that G and T are very different things.
Beyond.
A gay man and someone who's chopped the dick off are very different things.
Completely.
So they package it all together. So now, because the spectrum of your enemy is so large, you have people who are fully this way. You have people who we accept and are normal in society. We have no problem with gay people. And they put it all together. You're an enemy of all these people. And they complicate the argument and they mix it all together. And now you're a bigot. And really, you just want your kids to be left alone. Really, you just want to leave the children alone. Of
course.
All you want to do is leave your kids alone. And then it's like, okay, I'm now raising children. I have more children than most people would believe. How do I protect my children from this insanity? God. Which God can protect my children?
Okay, so there's a lot there. There's a lot there. The confusion thing we already talked about, really. We're not going to go into homosexuality tonight. However, I will just say that I vehemently oppose what he was saying in the beginning of this, where he seems to be insinuating that homosexuals lumped themselves in with the T and the Q and the ABC plus. I totally disagree with that. And the reason I say that is because I have a video on my YouTube from months ago where I interviewed the leader of Gays Against Groomers for Illinois. And Gays Against Groomers nationwide is a very large organization that is fighting against what is happening in the name of LGBTQ. Their organization consists of gays, lesbians, and trans people. Just as evidence, not everybody agrees with the wicked, disgusting things that are happening. There are plenty of gay people and even trans people who do not agree with what is happening when in regards to children. Just to be super clear. So I don't like that because it discounts those people. And I think if we're being real, those people are going to have more of an effect fighting this than probably straight people are, because they are proof that no, this whole homosexual LBG ABCs, that is not the problem necessarily. That is not the problem. It's the people with the hoods on in the back, calling the shots, organizing the events, trying to now put pedo, I can't say the full word, pedo in there too. So it's LGBTQ AI 675 plus P. They're trying to slip that in. It's not gay people doing that. It's not trans people necessarily doing that. It's the radicals doing that. It's, in my opinion, a huge part of the government that is doing that. It's the people with the hoods that are trying to get things done by doing exactly what he said, which is putting everything together so that if you speak out against one of them, you're speaking out against all of them, which, as he said, you're a bigot. You're a bigot. It was the same thing they did early this year, January or February, when they brought drag queens to the White House at the same time, and I'm going to get some of this wrong, but they were doing some kind of event for equality of races, and they lumped it together. So now if you oppose drag queens at the White House, you're also a racist. And that's what they do. They take all of these individual ideologies and they put them all in one category so that if you speak out against pedos, MAPS, yes, thank you, MAPS, minor attracted persons, you're speaking out against blacks, Mexicans, Asians, gays, lesbians, trans people, everything. You hate everybody. If you just don't like MAPS, if you just don't think pedos should be able to read books to kids. No, this is that greater mass confusion of trying to indoctrinate people into these ideological categories, where if you oppose this, you oppose everything, and you are a bigot and you are the enemy. When, just as he said, no, most of us just want kids to be left alone. Most of us could care less what you do in the privacy of your own home or even out in public, as long as it's as modest as the rest of us. are doing those types of things out in public. What's modest is modest for the gay, for the lesbian, for the trans, for the straight. Don't care. Just be respectable, be an adult, have some form of modesty and self-respect and respect for the people around you, and leave the goddamn kids alone. That's it. I don't know anybody who actually hates gay people. I've known my best friend for a long time, super gay. He would hit on me. I don't care. I know he'd never disrespect me. He knew I didn't disagree or that I didn't necessarily agree with his lifestyle, but his lifestyle is not mine, nor is he responsible to me. He'll answer to God, in my opinion, when he answers to God. I'm not God. He's a great dude, super fun, super funny, love him to death. What he does in his personal life, that's his. As much as what I do in my personal life is mine. There's a massive difference between these things. And this is what they do. They lump it all together so that you are a bigot, you are the enemy, no matter what. And it's just not true. I do, but they're the exception to the rule. Every institution is touched by duality. Yep. So it's more effective, it's more efficient to group people into malevolent or benevolent categories. Not every single category, cultural groups. Not every single category, subcategory, cultural groups. This is why we, yeah, totally. All right, where are we at? 201. I got a few more, guys. I'm going to try to burn through these so we don't have to do a part 2 of this, because honestly, I just don't want to. 20221. Yeah, 20221. Hang tight, y'all. Hang tight.
Not to cut you off, how much of you converting from Christianity to Islam is actually the belief in God versus the societal pressures that are facing children?
This is it.
It seems like it's a little bit of both.
For you to believe in God, you have to respect him.
No. And I'm going to let him finish, but no. That is such a simple way of thinking. And before I play the rest, try to figure that out in your head. Can you believe in God without respecting him? The Bible says demons believe in God. Do you think they respect him? Some might. Maybe they all do. I don't think they have to. I don't think you have to. Listen to the rest of what he says.
How can I believe and put my life in the hands of someone I don't respect? And I'm going to respect a God which is feared.
Yeah, but it's a vertical relationship, right? It's not a horizontal. If you base it horizontally, they're going to disappoint you. If you think about, if you're going to believe, let's go believe Prophet Muhammad, his teaching, and let's go believe the Bible, NIV, and Jesus, Father, for God so loved the world that he gave his, you gave your son for me. Let's say that's true. And you're doing it based on faith. Who would do such a thing for me? What a level of sacrifice for you to do that. Who am I for you to be so worried about me? If you look at it from that angle, it's not necessarily coming from a place of fear. It's coming from a place of grace. It's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of,
absolutely,
a different feel. Because I do believe the part that upsets me is the fear aspect, that they're allowing others to mock your God, to mock Jesus, to mock whatever religion it is you're a part of, and you're kind of like, oh, they're just funny, man. No, it's not funny. You just crossed the line. Like JC has that one line where he says, don't tell me why what the guy said about me. Tell me why he was so comfortable saying it to you.
100%.
Tell me why he said comfortable to you. So I think that's the part about faith. I understand when you're saying the fear and the respect side. So that's the part where fear is needed. I totally agree. But the part where you were making a point about LGBTQ, you're like, I don't even know what Q stands for, is questioning. And then you're like, well, gay, okay, cool. Trans, listen, man, spectrum. And he said if we were to say which religion's the far right, it's going to be Muslim. Totally get it. They're on the far right. Christian today is kind of going center left today. Like they're kind of being soft right now. Okay. So if I want to raise my kids, I'm going to take my kids to Dubai, and I'm going to take my kids to Saudi Arabia. Why? Because I'm defending against some of these immoral philosophies that they have. I don't want to go there. I actually understand that argument.
Yeah, and I truly, and I want to make one more point, I do believe there is one God, and I believe there's many different paths to God. And I'm not a religious scholar, and I'm not an expert on Islam. I'm doing my best, and I'm reading the Quran as often as I can. And it does say that Christians on the day of reckoning will see how close they were to the truth. And we are allies. We are not enemies in any regard, Christians and Muslims. And I do believe that the idea of Christians and Muslims.
I just want to point out that's inaccurate. You'll find fringe sections of Islam where they do say that. And fundamentally, text alone, I've heard decent arguments. However, I still don't agree. But the vast majority of Islam, true Islam, not people who adopt Muslim like Andrew Tate, but true Islam wants to see Americans and Christians die. That's the truth. That's the truth of purely my full understanding. I'm very open to being wrong. However, all of my study, all of my conversations with people who are Islamic, they're not friends of Christians. They're not at all friends of Christians.
I'm shaking
Sorry. Especially American Christians, just to be clear.
hands and saying, let's put an end to a lot of this garbage would be fantastic. I'm not anti-Christian in any regard. I just found myself, as I became more and more religious, seeking and looking for a faith which not only I could be proud of, but a faith which was guiding in regards to, I don't know what a Christian would answer to certain questions nowadays. What does a Christian answer to, I'm a transsexual and I want to show your kids my genitals. What's a Christian? Well, a Christian's supposed to say no, do they? I know what my Muslim friends would say. I don't know. If you're a Christian, I don't know how you're supposed to act. I don't know what you're supposed to adult. I don't get it anymore.
Again, one hand, totally agree. 100% agree. Because I don't know what Christians believe anymore, which is why I decided to remove myself from Christianity. It became impossible to understand what is a Christian, what is not a Christian. What makes a Christian? Oh, well, you believe the Bible. Nah. No, it's not that simple. No. But still, same main theme. Does that mean God of Christianity is not real? No. It's a very small-minded, very emotionally immature way of trying to rationalize this issue. You don't like Christians. That says nothing about God. It says something about Christians. It says something about culture, demographic, history. It says nothing about God in and of itself, himself. So just ridiculous.
Believer says
The true
no.
believer. The true believer.
Yeah.
But how many are true believers? I don't know. I see all over Twitter, all these churches are losing their minds. It seems very complicated.
True.
Islam seems very, very simple. You know.
So that makes it real. That makes it true. Because his mind can't understand that the Christian religion became tainted and was destroyed. He just goes to Islam because they adhere to their doctrine better. I think he would be surprised to know that there are different versions of Muslim. Like I said earlier at the beginning, there are different denominations, if you want to call them that, of Islamic belief, to the point that Muslims do kill each other. There is holy disgruntlement between different factions of the Islamic belief systems. Just again, for information's sake.
You know what's right, you know what's wrong.
I have a question regarding, we talked about tolerance and acceptance.
Oh, that was it for that. All right, I'm going to burn through. There's two more. They're short. 6:36.
Is what it's kind of like, all right, what's actually even happening here? You know, I'm not a, this is not my wheelhouse nor any of our wheelhouses, but one could argue that, you know, on the opposite end of the acceptance and the tolerance is absolute extremism.
Yes.
And
Ghost.
I'm sure the allies of the LGBT will point to Islam and point to the Middle Eastern countries and point to the North African countries that have Islam as their religion and say they are the most extreme. when it comes to LGBT. They say that it should be illegal to be gay. And in some countries, you should be killed if you are gay. I'm just pointing out stats.
You're right, and it's a super interesting argument because I will sit here and say that I guarantee in most Islamic countries there are gay people, and I guarantee that they have gay relationships, and nobody cares as long as they're not trying to inflict on the children. It's illegal to walk down the street and do indecent things in front of children. But I guarantee if you were gay in a lot of these countries, privately, nobody would care because they're trying to preserve the family unit. And to a degree, you have to always protect innocence. When you were talking about extremism, I would be friends with a gay person. Yes, I'm a Muslim, but I would be friends with a gay person because if a full-grown man decides to make a decision, it's his decision to make. But I must protect innocence as a man, so I must protect children. If two full-grown men decide to have a fight, let them fight. If a full-grown man decides to pick on a kid, that's unacceptable. So I must protect innocence. So I agree with the extremism point. But I have no problem with full-grown men doing what they want to do. Maybe some Islamic scholar is going to watch this and get mad at me. I don't have a problem with gay people and being friends with a gay person. I don't care. My problem is when you take a person who's unarmed, who's innocent, who is programmable like a child, and start inflicting your worldview on them. That is disgusting and it's immoral. That is unfair and it can't be accepted on any level. And that's the reason homosexuality is genuinely outlawed in these countries. Not because they fear what two full-grown men are going to do. They fear what's happened in the West. It's what two full-grown men are going to purport on the minds of children which aren't theirs. That's what they're afraid of.
That's conflation. That's conflation. I agree with almost everything. Where it becomes totally an opinion based on nothing in my understanding is that no, those places that are truly Islamic, conventionally Islamic, they are not okay with homosexual relationships in public. They're not okay with understanding or knowing that there are homosexual relationships happening. There are plenty of Muslim states where they still unalive homosexuals. For what? For being homosexual. For being homosexual and being caught being homosexual. So, but I agree with everything else. Everything else. It's preserving innocence that has become the actual crux of whether our world is going to stay intact or not, which they are trying very hard to destroy the line between what is okay for children and what is not okay for children. As much as it does have its own issues, I don't think it's right to wrap all LGBTQ people in with maps. 100%. It's totally wrong. I think they need to be separated completely and called what they are, not just trans people. Yeah, maps are criminals. Those people are criminal and they are disturbed. At best, they should be in some kind of mental institution or some kind of society on an island where they do not have access to children because it is a sickness, or prison. If they act on it, I think they should be under the ground, unequivocally under the ground. But no, and that's just what they do. They lump it all together so that if you go against gay people, you're going against maps. If you go against maps, well, you hate gays. You hate trans people. No, we hate people who F with children. That's what we hate. It's really not that complicated. Islam is an instant gratification religion and Christianity is a delayed gratification religion. That is relatively true. Yeah. Not in every case, but yeah, agreed. For the most part, agreed. I hate how it keeps using children's innocence as his argument when apparently young boys, that teaching, he uses children's innocence as his argument when apparently teaching young boys that they aren't men until they sleep with 50 girls. Boom, Mystic. I could not agree with you more. I could not agree with that more. He understands the concept of protecting innocence within his own opinion of what innocence is. Innocence to him is small children, which I agree, protect innocence. Innocence to me is also a 17, 18, 20-year-old man. They're innocent in some sense, especially the types of guys that go and watch him to try to become real men. They're innocent in terms of what his view of the world is. They're innocent in terms of what his view of women is, of how to raise children, how to be a father, how to be a man in society. His views are destructive when it comes to innocence at the age of teenage or young adult years, which you do still have innocence. God, in your 30s, you still have some concepts of innocence. And it's not fine. It's disgusting. I think it's a slippery slope to say drag queens are doing this or trans people are doing that. For sure. for sure. To a point, yeah. If maps become a protected group and you aren't allowed to call them that anymore, I'm going to start calling them cartographers. Jesus. Ghosts, I don't think they ever will. I think they'll continue to slip under the radar, but never fully accepted or protected. Man, I hope, but honestly, I don't think it's looking great. I think we're making a lot of headway against it, but man, are we right on the line of crossing that line? I can only hope, but we live in them times. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. Yeah, I would not. I don't want to talk about it. It makes me sad. It makes me sad to think about where we're at. So I want to bounce back to this. Actually, I have one. There's one more minute. One more minute. All right.
You do not bring it to our country here, right? The challenge goes back to, remember how you're like the girl that you're dating is like, so what happened? I asked you to bring the oranges from the store. How come you didn't bring it? Yeah, I forgot. Hey, so how about this? And you know, that's why you love your mom more than you love me. And you're like, oh, shit, you're going to go around them. And now there's a fight, right? Okay. Well, is the mistake being too tolerant from the beginning? Is the mistake being too accepting from the beginning? Is the mistake of, like the fear when I talk to Second Amendment guys, and the fear about, well, what's wrong with them doing background checks? What's wrong with them doing this? He says, look, that's how it starts. You give them the background checks, then they're going to come for everything. Oh, you're over-exaggerating. No one's coming for your guns. Well, you also said 20 years ago, Hillary Clinton, marriage is between a man and a woman, and the sanctity of marriage 20 years later. So that is the fear where one must watch this as a case study. Say somebody starting a new country and saying, look, here's where we stand. These are the laws we're not touching. We're not going to be doing X, Y, Z. You've been too tolerant, and now you're paying the price.
Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama ran on the concept, on one of the ideas of marriage is between a man and a woman. What do they say now? Men and women don't exist. How quickly and how dramatically they changed and perpetuated, confusing all of the United States.
For it, and now you're reacting to it.
And that's exactly why you completely nailed it. If you give an inch, they take a mile, and that's why I think in a lot of these countries they have it's officially illegal. They're actually quite tolerant of it, more than you'd believe. I'm telling you, you can go to Jordan and your waiter will be a bit fruity. You can tell. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit, right? But they have it officially illegal to prevent it ever bleeding out into actually affecting the mindset of society. You can do what you want, you're a full-grown man, but society is based on family, traditional family values. That's how our society is based. That's how we show ourselves to the world, and that is not going to be affected or changed.
It's not true. From an Islamic point of view, that is not true. They believe homosexuality goes against nature, which goes against God. And they are not relationships that are to be encouraged or supported in any way. That is the Islamic conventional belief.
I was going to say, that's why you see you talk about the collapse of Western society, specifically America. You see decline in values. Wall Street Journal came out with that article that said family values plummeting, religion plummeting, being a community organizer plummeting. Everything's plummeting in America other than money. People are focusing.
Which is accurate, right? Everything is plummeting in America. I would include money, but money is one thing that's holding out. I want to go back to this and then I got to get off. I'm late. I got to get my kid to bed. Is the world a better place with religion, even if people do not believe in the religion? It was funny because for a while, it was heavily no. It was heavily no. Now it's yes. It's a tough question. It's a tough question. And I'm not going to tell you what I think, but I'll leave it here. If people don't believe in the religion, but adhere to the religion, let's use Christianity as an example. If all of the world adhered to Christian objective morality, what would the world look like? It'd be beautiful. It'd be absolutely beautiful. But it would still be absent of God. If they didn't believe it, it'd be absent of God. There are plenty of people who, like Ghost was saying earlier, call themselves Christians but are not Christians because they don't act like Christians. We're going through James right now on Sunday, the Bible study. James is all about, if you do not act like a Christian, you are not a Christian. And yet we live in this fluffy world of Christianity where Oh, I believe I did an altar call and now I'm a Christian. Get the hell out of here. No. You emulate what Jesus gave as an example, which is an emulation of God, of goodness, of morality, of the concept of God in human form to be easier to identify with. And that is what we are to do. That is not what Christians do. The other side of the argument is even people who don't necessarily believe in Christianity, but were to actually walk the walk of Christianity, would do more good than Christians, real Christians, Christians who really believe, not real Christians, Christians who really believe, but don't act in Christianity, don't act in a biblical manner. Which goes back to the atheists doing moral things and just not understanding what they're doing. They're not understanding why it's moral, but they can still do good deeds. The Christians nowadays who claim Christian do more damage than good. And painfully, there are many Muslims who do more good than bad. They do more good for societal constructs and their survival than Christians do. The Christian nation of the United States has collapsed. I believe our government has collapsed. Our financial institutions are absolutely in the middle of collapsing. And us as a religious institution is no more. It's gone. It's gone. We've become too divided. Once you're this divided, you will fall. And we are in the middle of the fall. Statistically, we're in the middle of the fall. It's not my opinion. There are metrics behind that. We're on the decline. We're halfway down the slide to hell. Transhumanism was always the goal. Things just move in stages. In my opinion, DNA tampering will blur all the lines, and this gender fluidity stuff is laying the groundwork. Absolutely true. The more he talks, the more he tells on himself for aligning more with Christianity. I agree. He just hates Christians. I'm grateful for graduating religion. Oh, Mikhail. Would computers be gooder without operating systems? Religion ideologies are just operating systems. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's the latest Windows again? 95. 95. Claiming Christianity without doing Christianity is breaking the third commandment. I mean, yeah, I feel like you can kind of argue it, but not really. But then when you get into like James that we're going through currently, there's no way to deny it. There's no way to deny it. You have to ignore the Bible to say that those who are Christian but don't act as Christians are actually Christians. You have to do massive gymnastics to make that claim. Can we have faith without being religious? No, you can't. I don't think so. And that's my opinion. No, I don't think you can have real faith without being religious. Religious is just a word that has a definition. So take your preconceived notions, your preconceived understanding about it out, and just go based on the definition of the word. Everybody who walks the planet is religious in some manner. The LGBTQ fam, they're religious. They just don't believe in a deity. It's self-religion. They self-sacrifice and they self-obsess. They praise self. They praise their group. It's a religion by definition. But no, I don't think a Christian, for example, could truly have faith in Jesus Christ or truly have faith in God without being religious in action, in behavior. I don't think you can just experience God and be like, I'm going to do the shit I was doing before. I'm just going to keep going the way I've been going. I would bet my life that no, you did not. You had an emotional reaction to something. That's not understanding God. That's not seeing God. That's not believing in God. That's you having an emotional chemical reaction and feeling something that for 5 minutes made you feel like you met God. Adam's first wife got booted for doing OnlyFans. What do you get if you cross Islam and capitalism? No more jokes about profit. Jesus Christ. Religion began when the first scoundrel met the first fool. I like that. Adam, I've never seen you. That was a great one-line drop. All right, guys, I have to go. I got to put the kiddo to bed. I love you all dearly. Tonight was entertaining. We got way off track a bunch of times, but it was very good. Very good. We'll do morality soon. It seems like morality has been coming up a lot. So maybe we'll do morality next Thursday, and I'll omit the poll again for one more week. Everyone is religious because everyone has a collection of ideas that undergird their decisions. Yeah, exactly. Everybody who walks the planet is religious in one form or another. Lilith, I love you. Pastora, love you. Nat, love you. Everybody have a great night. Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Time, we will continue James. We just started, so you didn't miss anything. We'll go over some of the background again, and then we'll continue on. I am not going to have a voice tomorrow. So just know that I love you guys. I love you guys. Comedy Central. All right, I'll see y'all in Discord, and I'll see you Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Time for the Bible study. Adam, join the Discord, man. Join the Discord. There's a link there at the top, and there's a link in the description as well. I love you guys. I got to go drink some water. Everybody have a great night.